The Old Testament, a kid's guide. Creation in the beginning. A long time ago, God made the world. He created the sky, the land, the sea, plants, animals, and finally people. The first people were Adam and Eve. They lived in a beautiful garden called Eden. Everything was perfect until Adam and Eve disobeyed God, and they had to leave the garden. Noah and the flood. People became very bad, so God decided to send a big flood to clean the world. He told a good man named Noah to build a huge boat called an ark. Noah brought his family and 2 of every kind of animal on the ark. After the flood, God promised never to flood the whole earth again and made a rainbow as a sign of his promise. Abraham and Sarah. Abraham was a man who loved and trusted God. God promised Abraham that he would have many descendants, as many as the stars in the sky. Even though they were very old, Abraham and his wife Sarah had a son named Isaac. God's promise to Abraham was the start of a special people called the Israelites. Moses and the Exodus. The Israelites became slaves in Egypt. God chose Moses to lead them out of Egypt to freedom. God sent 10 plagues to convince the Egyptian king to let them go. The last plague was the worst, and finally, the Israelites left Egypt. Moses parted the Red Sea, and they walked through on dry land. God gave Moses the 10 Commandments on Mount Sinai, which are rules for living a good life. David and Goliath. David was a young shepherd boy who loved God. When a giant named Goliath scared the Israelite army, David trusted God and faced the giant with just a sling and a stone. He defeated Goliath, and later David became a great king. Solomon's wisdom. David's son Solomon became king after him. Solomon asked God for wisdom to rule well. God made Solomon very wise and also very rich. Solomon built a beautiful temple for God in Jerusalem. Prophets and promises. Sometimes the Israelites forgot to follow God's ways. God sent prophets like Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Jonah to remind them to turn back to him. The prophets also spoke of a special person who would come to save the people from their sins. This person is Jesus, who is talked about in the New Testament. Jonah and the big fish. God told Jonah to go to a city called Nineveh and tell the people to stop doing bad things. Jonah didn't want to go, so he tried to run away on a ship. God sent a big storm, and Jonah was thrown overboard. A huge fish swallowed him. Jonah prayed to God from inside the fish, and after 3 days, the fish spat him out. Jonah then obeyed God and went to Nineveh. Daniel and the lions. Daniel loved God and prayed to him every day. Some men who didn't like Daniel tricked the king into making a law that no one could pray to anyone but the king. Daniel kept praying to God, so he was thrown into a den of lions. God protected Daniel, and he was not hurt. The king saw that Daniel's God was real and powerful. Esther saves her people. Esther was a brave queen who saved her people, the Israelites, from a bad man named Haman. She risked her life to speak to the king and tell him about Haman's plan. The king listened to Esther, and the Israelites were saved. Conclusion. The Old Testament is full of stories about God's love and care for his people. It teaches us to trust God, obey his commands, and be brave and kind. These stories help us understand how God wants us to live and prepare us for the coming of Jesus in the New Testament.
In the beginning, God made the light, stars in the sky, shining so bright, mountains and oceans, flowers and trees, all of creation made with ease. God's love is everywhere, in the earth, the sea, the air. With his love we have no fear. God is always near. Noah built an ark so wide, with God's help they stayed inside. Through the storm and through the rain, God is always near. God's love is everywhere, in the earth, the sea, the air. With his love we have no fear. God is always near. Noah built an ark so wide, with God's help they stayed inside. Through the storm and through the rain, God's promise is our gain. God's love is everywhere, in the earth, the sea, the air. With his love we always near. David fought the giant tall. With God's strength he did not fall. With a stone and a sling he won. God's power in everyone. God's love is everywhere. In the earth, the sea, the air. With His love we have no fear. God is always near. Through every story, every time, God's love is so divine. In our hearts He will stay, guiding us along the way. God's love is everywhere. In the earth, the sea, the air. With His love we have no fear. God is always near. God is always near. God is always near. God's love is everywhere. In the earth, the sea, the air. With His love we have no fear. God is always near. Noah built an ark so wide. With God's help they stayed inside. Through the storm and through the rain, God is always near. God's love is everywhere. In the earth, the sea, the air. With His love we have no fear. God is always near. God is always near. God is always near.